Hey people. So, a while back, I got some USGI surplus magazines from a friend of mine who was deployed somewhat recently, and these things are in generally poor condition. Not really the outside, this one is actually a pretty nice example. What I'm referring to are the insides of the magazines. For example, this one has a green follower, the old style tilting follower, and many of them had the Vietnam era, as I understand it, followers. The black 1960s issue, 1970s issue followers. I began to have, I test fired them, and began to have some problems with them pretty early on. For the record, I keep Generation 3 PMags, Lancers, and Men 2. I've also tried Hex magazines in my rifle. The very first malfunction I had with my rifle was with one of these magazines, and they're pretty beaten up. I've pulled the guts on quite a few of them. The strings are a little loose, and the followers are crap. So, more as a vanity project, because it's kind of putting lipstick on a pig, I guess you might say, I picked up these Magpul anti-tilt followers and the Brownells springs to go with them. As I recall, the followers were just $1 a piece, and the springs were $1 to $2 depending on where you got them. So to retrofit each of these magazines, which you might find at your local shop for $4 to $5, would cost $2 to $3 to retrofit them. Of course, I could just buy a new magazine for about $7 a piece, but I just wanted to see if I could do it. So, how do you change the guts on these magazines? Well, the way that was recommended to me was to insert a tool or punch into this little plug hole right here, and to push the base plate out and off of the magazine, and this would reveal the spring. You could pull the follower and the spring out of the magazine. What I've discovered in this lot of magazines, these are all 2004 issue OK Industries magazines, is that they don't really work like that. They're fairly difficult to disassemble, and inserting a tool into the plug hole will generally not disassemble the magazine. Some people have recommended you may see a gap right here. Of course, on this one you won't, because this one's pretty tight. And you lift up and you push off with a finger or thumb or something else as you apply continuous pressure. However, as I mentioned, many of these are quite tight. You need to get some leverage. And here I've got a pair of scissors. You can use another punch, tooltip, something, whatever. Doesn't matter. You need to just get leverage, and you need to lift this up while you insert, let's say this is a mini flathead screwdriver. You want to put a flathead in here, lift up, and push out. So, what I'm going to do is place the there we go. So as you can see, I've got the scissors, and you can use anything you want really. Insert it in the plug hole, and I'm going to place the mini flathead in here. There we go. So you can see there's a gap now, and I can slip in the mini flatheads. Hooray! Right? Okay. So now I remove the scissors, and I've got this stuck in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push down on this, and as I'm pushing down to lift this flap up on the floor plate, I want to be pushing the follower off. So, let me demonstrate that right now. There we go. That was actually quite simple compared to the last one. So you can see as I'm pushing up, I push off, and you want to hold your thumb over the floor plate, because this spring is under quite a bit of tension, and that will come flying out. So, there you go. As you can see, I have my floor plate. That is dirty. Then again, these things have not probably been used in 15 years. And sometimes this is a bit of a bitch because these are very tight on the inside. Alright, so I have the old follower and spring removed. I'm going to place the new body now. Normally I would flush these with compressed air to get sand and dust out, but don't have the can with me this time, so I guess I'm just going to push it in like so. Alright. Now, that spring's going to want to pop out. So what I'm going to do is hold my hand over it while I replace the floor plate. I'm just going to reuse the floor plate because frankly those don't ever need to be changed unless they're damaged. Now that I have it over, I'm just going to push it. And you're going to want to keep pushing until you hear a snap like that or a click. And that's how you know that it will be actually completely in place. So now that I have these new followers on here, it's very tight. That spring's got quite a bit of force. And the followers don't tilt. I've already tested all of these. They will function perfectly in the rifle when upgraded. And they drop free. As far as I can tell, without breaking out a pair of pliers or even buying a field wear gauge, these magazines, not as good as new, but are perfectly functional. That pretty much ends this. If you'd like to know a little bit of backstory, basically, apparently my friend came back from a deployment. The armorer said these magazines are absolute pieces of shit. Please just take them off my hands. And that's how they wound up in his shed for goodness knows how many years before I mentioned I had a rifle which could accept these, and he said that he had a bit of a surprise for me. So I gave him a little bit of money for them. It doesn't cost that much to retrofit them, as I mentioned. And now I have, as long as I can keep getting my hands on these things, I have a way to rebuild plenty of magazines for a relatively low cost. You could, for the money I spent, you could just buy a new magazine, but what mattered to me was, well, I have them, so I may as well have functional ones. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourselves, guys.